I gotta be honest with you, Dolphins fans. I still can't wrap my head around what we just witnessed. As I was putting this together, I could literally feel my frustration building with every line. Because what we're seeing from this Miami defense right now is beyond disappointing. It's flat out embarrassing. The run defense has completely fallen apart, and it's getting harder and harder to defend what's happening on that side of the ball. Before we go any further, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. And of course, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update on everything happening around the NFL. Now, back to this disaster. When you look at the Dolphins' run defense numbers, it's almost unbelievable. They've been shredded every single week. Right now, they're allowing 174.2 rushing yards per game, ranking dead last in the entire NFL. Per play, 5.6 yards. That's practically handing out first downs for free. The only team that's somehow worse, the Chicago Bears, giving up 6.1 yards per rush. But that's not much of a consolation. Miami's defensive efficiency, measured by EPA per rush, ranks 32nd, bottom of the league. And here's the stat that should make every Dolphins fan's blood boil. Yards before contact per attempt, also 32nd. That means running backs aren't even being touched until they're already picking up serious yardage. This isn't just a bad stretch. This looks like a defensive collapse, one that could define their entire season if it doesn't get fixed fast. It means exactly what it looks like. This defensive line is getting absolutely manhandled at the line of scrimmage. Running backs aren't even getting touched until they're already deep into the second level. And honestly, you almost have to try to be this bad. It's like every snap, the defense collectively decides, yeah, go ahead, take whatever you want on the ground. It's pathetic. I don't even like using that word, but tell me, what else can you call it? You let Rico Dowdle, yes, Rico Dowdle, run wild for 206 yards. This is a guy who averaged just 2.7 yards per carry from weeks 1 through 4. But then, the moment he sees the Dolphins on the schedule in week 5, boom, he suddenly looks like prime Adrian Peterson. Dowdle didn't just run well, he dominated. Out of his 206 yards, 105 came over expected. Let that sink in. Even if he had only reached his expected total, he'd still be at over 5 yards a carry. But instead, he doubled it. That's not just poor defense, that's a defensive breakdown on every level. And when you break down the film, it's crystal clear what happened. The left side of Miami's defensive front got exposed. Over and over again, Carolina ran to their right, straight at the Dolphins' left edge, and it worked every time. Guess who's lining up there? Bradley Chubb and Christian Wilkins. Two guys who were supposed to anchor this defense and set the tone. Yet they were getting bullied snap after snap. The tape doesn't lie. It never does. And what it shows right now is a defense that's soft, slow, and completely out of sync. You know the old saying, men lie, women lie, but the film never lies. And when you turn it on, you see the same painful story play out again and again. Terrible tackling, zero effort, and no discipline. I get it. When your defense is struggling this badly, players start trying to make something happen. They want that big hit, that forced fumble, that game-changing play. But instead of wrapping up and making the tackle, half the defense is just swinging at the football while the runner keeps charging downfield. If everyone's punching at the ball, then who's actually tackling? The answer, no one. The fundamentals are gone. The defensive linemen aren't shedding blocks. You see guys just standing there, watching the play go by. It's like they've given up. Zach Sealer isn't breaking free. The young players aren't disengaging, and the veterans look completely gassed. Even worse, there's chaos up front. Players ending up in the same gap. No structure, no communication, no unity. What you're seeing right now is selfish football. Every man playing for himself instead of the team. And that's why this defense keeps getting gashed week after week. So what's the real issue? Is it the players not executing, or is it the coaching staff failing to put them in position to succeed? Honestly, it looks like both, but the coaching deserves a lot of this blame. Anthony Weaver, man, what's going on here? Where's the fire? Where's the accountability? Because right now, this group looks lost, and it starts with the leadership. I'll be real with you. I'm fired up about this. How can you not be? Dolphins fans, I want to know what you think. Rate your frustration level from 1 to 10 in the comments below, because I can't wrap my head around how this defense has fallen apart so badly. And right after the game, Mike McDaniel had something to say about his defense, and honestly, it raised even more questions. We shared a short clip of this on Monday, but now let's look at Mike McDaniel's full statement after that game, because it perfectly sums up what's going wrong in Miami. He said, schematically and from a technique perspective, We have to get guys playing on the same page. You don't give up that many yards at the line of scrimmage unless there's a lack of coordination. I need to make sure players don't break off and try to handle things on their own. We collectively need to build a wall. If play calls need to change for that to happen, then they need to change. It just can't keep going like this. That right there, that's exactly what we've been talking about. McDaniel knows it. You don't allow this kind of run dominance unless something deeper is broken, whether it's communication, effort, or coaching direction. And here's the crazy part. He's not wrong. Everything he said matches what the film shows. The defense isn't playing as one unit. It's scattered, it's inconsistent, and it's flat-out uncoordinated. But here's what makes it so frustrating. Anthony Weaver had this group playing great last season. Miami's defense ranked in the top half of the league across most major categories. They struggled with turnovers and sacks, sure, but overall, it was solid, disciplined football. So what happened? How did they go from a strong, reliable defense to this absolute mess in just 1 year? Is it the scheme, the execution, the effort? Or is it simply the wrong personnel being used the wrong way? Because right now, what we're seeing on the field is incomprehensible. A complete collapse in fundamentals, effort, and identity. This isn't just a bad stretch. This is a warning sign that something deep within this defense is broken. And if it doesn't get fixed soon, the season could spiral out of control. When you look at the defensive line rotation from that game against Carolina, the problems become crystal clear. Zach Sealer led the group in snaps, as expected, but after that, it's a confusing mess. Cameron Good, or in this case, Brandon Piley, Deshaun Hand, Christian Wilkins, depending on rotation, check Miami's rotation if needed. No consistency. Against the Panthers, we saw Kenneth Grant playing around 30 snaps, Matthew Butler with 29, Jordan Phillips with 23, and Emmanuel Ogbah around 20. And here's the thing. I said it last week. I wanted more Matthew Butler on the field. Through the first 4 games, he was one of the highest-graded defenders on this team. Yet he was barely seeing 10 to 15% of the defensive snaps. So seeing that number jump up to 29 snaps this week, that's progress. But now comes the real question. Why is Jordan Phillips only playing 23 snaps? This guy has been your best run defender. He's the anchor, the veteran presence, and the one guy who's actually holding his ground up front. Yet, in a game where you couldn't stop the run to save your life, he's sitting on the sideline for half the defensive plays? That makes no sense. Meanwhile, Kenneth Grant continues to get 50% or more of the snaps every week, sometimes even more. I understand he's a first-round pick, and benching him early in his rookie season is tough. But at some point, production has to matter. And right now, Grant has been statistically one of the worst defensive linemen in football. And it doesn't stop there. Remember your second-round pick, Jonas Savainia? He's currently graded as one of the lowest-rated offensive guards in the entire league. So when you look at this draft class, it's been a disaster so far. This was supposed to be Chris Grier's redemption draft, the one that would save his job and solidify Miami's future. But instead, it's looking like a complete swing and a miss. If these early-round picks don't turn things around fast, the Dolphins could be staring down another rebuild. And this time, there won't be any excuses left. The Dolphins made the playoffs last season, and that should have been the start of something special. Instead, what followed was a complete letdown. General Manager Chris Grier had one job: build on that success, hit on the draft picks, and make the right free agent moves to keep this team in contention. But so far, he's missed on almost every swing. The draft class hasn't produced. The free agent additions haven't delivered. James Daniels was supposed to stabilize the offensive line. He hasn't. Nick Westbrook-Ikine was brought in to add depth and versatility at receiver. He's been invisible. These moves were meant to strengthen a playoff roster, but instead, they've weakened it. And now, you can feel the frustration building across the entire fan base. Miami finally had momentum, finally had hope, and it's being wasted by poor roster management and questionable decision-making at the top. And look, I said it before, and I'll say it again. Jordan Phillips needs to be on the field more. He's one of the few defensive linemen consistently holding his ground. If you want to rotate in Matthew Butler, fine, that makes sense. But you can't keep giving Kenneth Grant and Butler more snaps than Phillips. That's just bad coaching and worse planning. The Dolphins are running out of excuses. The talent is there. The fan base is loyal. But until the people in charge start putting the right players on the field and holding others accountable, nothing is going to change. This team can still turn it around, but only if the front office and coaching staff start acting like their jobs depend on it. Because right now, they just might. It's honestly been fascinating and frustrating to track Jordan Phillips' snap count throughout the season. In Week 1, he played 33 of 73 defensive snaps, a solid rotation especially with Benito Jones sidelined. Jones missed Weeks 2 and 3, and during that time, Phillips stepped up, logging 40 of 60 snaps one week and 30 of 60 the next. That's roughly 67% and 50% of the defensive plays, solid numbers for a guy who's been quietly reliable. But here's where it makes no sense. Over the last 2 weeks, Phillips has barely seen the field. His snap percentage has dropped from over 53% in the first 3 weeks down to just 29% recently. How do you even justify that? You can't. There's no logical explanation. Phillips currently owns the second-best run-stop percentage on the entire Dolphins defense at 8.6%. Is that elite? No, but it's productive. He's not a superstar, but he's consistent. He's been better than Kenneth Grant, better than Matthew Butler, better than Benito Jones, and yes, even better than Zach Sealer against the run. So let me ask the obvious question. Why isn't your best interior run defender getting consistent playing time on a team that has the worst run defense in the NFL? Maybe even in NFL history? It's beyond confusing. It's infuriating. You've got the answers sitting right there on your bench, and somehow, you're still pretending this is fine. It's either stubborn coaching or complete mismanagement. There's no other way to explain it. And to make things even stranger, while your most effective run stopper is glued to the sideline, the Dolphins are out there giving reps to Chop Robinson, trying to patch things up on the fly instead of addressing the real problem. This isn't about potential anymore. It's about performance. And right now, Miami's decisions in the trenches are costing them games. Plain and simple. You want to know what really blows my mind? Chop Robinson, the guy who was arguably your best defender from weeks 8 through 18 last season as a rookie, is barely seeing the field this year. Let's look at the numbers. Through 5 games, Robinson has been on the field for just 38.6% of defensive snaps. Meanwhile, Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are out there for 68% and 66% of the snaps, respectively. Now, I get it. Chop got a little banged up near the end of Week 2, which probably limited him on that short turnaround against Buffalo in Week 3. But come on, that doesn't explain why he's barely playing at all now. The part that really gets under my skin? Bradley Chubb. Phillips has been Miami's best edge rusher this season. Highest pressure rate, best at setting the edge, doing everything you could ask for. But how in the world is there a 28% snap difference between Chubb and Robinson? That's not strategy, that's insanity. Honestly, it feels like Chop Robinson has been shadow banned by this coaching staff. Like, what did he even do? Did he say something to Anthony Weaver? Did he tick off someone behind the scenes? Because there's no football reason that justifies him playing less than 40% of the time. It's a complete joke. And yeah, last year you could argue that Robinson struggled to stop the run or didn't fully know how to set the edge yet. Fine. Rookie learning curve, that's understandable. But the only way to learn is by playing. And here's the kicker. This team has the worst run defense in the NFL right now. So, what's the harm in giving him more snaps? It literally can't get worse. Bradley Chubb might have 3 sacks, but the truth is, the tape doesn't lie. His pressure rate is low, his run defense is weak, and he's graded among the lowest on the Dolphins' entire defense. When you actually watch the film, it's bad. Real bad. So, again I'll ask, why isn't Chop Robinson playing? Because at this point, the only thing more frustrating than Miami's defense is the people making the decisions for it. Don't let the 3 sacks fool you. Bradley Chubb has not been good this season. One of those was a gift fumble recovery from Bryce Young, and the rest haven't shown much impact. Let's be real here. The Miami Dolphins should be sellers at the trade deadline. Tyreek Hill would have been your best possible trade asset, but his knee injury obviously takes that option off the table. Still, if I were Miami, I'd be looking to move both Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb before the deadline, assuming you can even find a taker for Chubb. Honestly, I'm not sure there would be one, but you should at least try. You're likely cutting him after this season anyway. As for Jalen Phillips, he's not under contract next year. So how could you justify re-signing him after the year he's had? That's why it makes sense to trade him now and recoup some draft picks while you can. The numbers we've gone through today are flat out hard to comprehend. The run defense stats alone are shocking. Then you look at the snap counts on the defensive line. Why is Jordan Phillips barely playing? Why is Chop Robinson barely seeing the field? It makes no sense. At this point, the only explanation is that the Dolphins' defensive coaching staff has absolutely no idea what they're doing. It's embarrassing. That's it for today's breakdown. Still not over it. This team is frustrating beyond words. I'm tired of watching this same garbage product on the field every week. Done with it. If you want real, unfiltered coverage of the Dolphins all year long, this is the place for you.